Alana from Kids Read to Kids, and we are on Chapter 11 of Read All About It with our American Girl reading doll, Kit. Let's get started. Chapter 11, The Wicked Ogre. Kit couldn't allow herself to cry for long. She knew that all her afternoon chores were waiting for her. And Mother liked to give the kitchen floor a good scrub every Sunday night because there wasn't time during the week. Kit rolled over and sat up on her bed. She saw Amelia Earhart smiling at her from the newspaper photograph near her desk. "Come on, Kit," Amelia seemed to say. "Gotta get up and go." Even though she still felt miserable, Kit wiped her eyes, blew her nose, and went downstairs to the kitchen. Mother had already put the chairs up on the kitchen table. She was filling a bucket with hot, soapy water at the sink. She turned to greet Kit with a smile, but her smile faded when she saw Kit's eyes, red from crying. "Oh, Kit, darling," she said. She dried her hands on her apron as she hurried over to put her arm around Kit. "Was it that bad at Uncle Hendrik's then? He's so fussy, and that awful what's-his-name, too, that Scotty dog." "Inky," Kit said. Mother smelled of soap suds, and Kit let herself lean against her. "He hates me." "That's not all that's wrong, is it?" asked Mother. "No," admitted Kit. "Ruthie and I had a fight." Kit poured out the whole story about Ruthie's bright red dress, the ballet tickets, and the invitation to tea. "It was wrong of me to say no for you too, Mother," she said. "But I couldn't help it. I was just so mad." Kit sighed. "It used to be easy to be friends with Ruthie." "It isn't anymore." Mother nodded. "Your lives are very different now," she said. "Things that are possible for Ruthie are not possible for you." "The truth is," said Kit, "I'm jealous of her." "And she," said Mother, "is jealous of you." "Of me?" asked Kit, surprised. "But I'm the one who lost everything. Why would she be jealous of me?" "Oh, I don't know," said Mother. "I've had the impression that Ruthie envies you for having the boarders around like a big, interesting family. It's awfully quiet at her house. And maybe she envies how your life is more grown up now. People trust you to do important things." "I never thought of it that way," said Kit, sighing. "All I know is that I'm sorry about the fight." "I wish we could use the telephone," said Mother. The telephone had been turned off because they could no longer afford to pay the bill. "Then you could call Ruthie and tell her that you're sorry." "Well, you'll see her in school tomorrow. You can make it better then." "Do you think so?" asked Kit hopefully. "Of course," said Mother. "It's never too late to repair a friendship." Mother lifted the pail of hot water out of the sink. "Let's scrub this floor now," she said. "I'm afraid it's never too late for that either." Mother was wrong. Kit was not able to patch things up with Ruthie the next day. Ruthie didn't stop to pick her up before school, and every time Kit tried to get Ruthie's attention during the morning, Ruthie turned away or hid herself in a group of girls. At lunchtime, in desperation, Kit wrote Ruthie a note and put it on her desk. She watched unhappily as Ruthie glanced at it, picked it up in 2 fingers, as if it were a dead toad, and tossed it, unopened and unread, into the wastepaper basket. Then Ruthie sashayed off to lunch with a bunch of girls who were in her dance class. Kit used to be in the class too, but she'd had to drop out when her family couldn't afford that anymore either. Everyone at school noticed that Ruthie was shunning Kit. Sterling tried to help. "Here," he said to Kit. "Give this to Ruthie." He handed Kit a picture he had drawn on a sketch pad. The picture showed Kit flying an airplane like Amelia Earhart. The passenger in the plane was Ruthie dressed as a princess. "Thanks, Sterling," Kit said. But she was afraid to give the drawing to Ruthie after what she'd said about princesses being babyish. So Kit put Sterling's sketchpad and drawing into her book bag. After 3 days of getting the cold shoulder, Kit gave up. It was clear that Ruthie was too mad to forgive her. She wouldn't even give Kit a chance to apologize. When Ruthie had said they couldn't be friends anymore, she'd meant it. School closed for vacation, and Kit and Ruthie still hadn't spoken. Usually Kit loved Christmas vacation because it meant she had more time to spend with her family and Ruthie. But this year, all it meant was that she had more time to spend with Uncle Hendrik and Inky. Every morning after doing her chores at home, Kit went to his house. She walked there and back so she could save the streetcar fare. Her pile of nickels was growing. But that was the only good thing about going to Uncle Hendrik's house. "Good gracious, you careless child! Don't use so much string!" Uncle Hendrik fussed at her one day as Kit was tying up a bundle of newspapers for him. "Do you think string grows on trees? I suppose you learned your wasteful ways from your spendthrift parents," he snorted. "They think that money grows on trees. Holes in their pockets, those two." Kit bit her lip to stop herself from saying to Uncle Hendrik, "That's not true. He never missed a chance to be critical of her parents. He lectured her about how they deserved their poverty because they'd been extravagant and lived beyond their means. It made Kit furious. Sometimes she thought Uncle Hendrik was trying to make her mad on purpose so that she wouldn't come back. But Kit could be ornery too. The meaner Uncle Hendrik was, the more determined she was not to give up. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. At the end of every day, Uncle Hendrik had errands for her to do on her way home. Every errand came with lots of fuss-budgety instructions. "Take these shoes to be shined," Uncle Hendrik commanded one blustery day. "Here's a dime to pay for it." He shook his finger at Kit. "Tell the man that I demand good value for my money. The last time he left a scuff mark on the toe. Tell him don't think I didn't see it." "Yes, sir," said Kit. She put the shoes in her book bag and the dime in her left pocket. "Leave these shirts at the laundry," Uncle Hendrik said. "Tell them to put starch on the collars and cuffs only. And tell them that I don't want to see any buttons broken like the last time, or I'll deduct the cost of the buttons from their bill." "Yes, sir," said Kit again. "Goodbye." She gathered up the shirts, put on her coat, and left. The laundry was closest, so Kit dropped off the shirts first. Then she trudged along to the shoe shine shop. When she got there, a terrible sight met her eyes. There's a big hand-lettered sign on the door. "Out of business. Closed till the depression is out of business, too." Kit stood there in the bitter cold, wondering what to do. One thing was sure. Uncle Hendrik would bite her head off and howl worse than Inky if she brought his shoes back unshined. So Kit took the shoes home. Using her dad's rags and polish, she shined them herself, rubbing until her arms ached. She carried the shoes back to Uncle Hendrik's house the next day, bracing herself for his persnickety words of criticism. Before she could explain, Uncle Hendrik took the shoes from her. "There," he said. "That's what I call a job well done. Let that be a lesson for you, Kit. You'll only get your money's worth if you insist upon it." Kit hid a smile. "Here's your dime back," she told him. "The shop was closed. I shined the shoes myself." "You?" said Uncle Hendrik. He studied the shoes again, then narrowed his eyes at her. "Then you earned the dime," he said brusquely. "Keep it." Kit put the dime in her pocket, and she faced Uncle Hendrik bravely. "Uncle Hendrik," she said, "I've been thinking. May I work for you? If I pick up your groceries, may I keep the tip you usually give the delivery man? If I deliver your letters, may I keep the cost of the stamps? If I—" "Stop!" shouted Uncle Hendrik. "You pester the life out of me. Get this straight once and for all, child. I don't care who does the work as long as it's done to my satisfaction. You may keep the money you earn, understand?" "Yes, sir," said Kit. "Good," said Uncle Hendrik. "Now don't bother me about this again." That was all Kit needed to hear. Starting then, whenever she could, Kit did Uncle Hendrik's jobs herself. She polished his shoes. She delivered his letters. She fetched his groceries. She brought him his newspaper. She washed his windows, and then washed them all over again because Uncle Hendrik said he saw streaks. Kit wanted to earn enough money to pay the electric bill, which he knew was about $2.35. Every day, she counted up the money she'd earned to see how close she was to getting her goal. 5 days before Christmas Eve, Kit had $1.55. She needed 80 cents more. She knew she could earn 10 cents a day by walking instead of riding the streetcar. That would be 50 cents. But it was going to be tough to earn the last 30 cents. Still, Kit was determined, even though Uncle Hendrik's chores were hard. The winter streets were often slippery, and the winter darkness came earlier and earlier. But Kit kept saying to herself, "Think how surprised Mother will be when I give her the money I've earned." The thought kept her going when the cold wind made her eyes water and slush seeped through her shoes and froze her feet. Sometimes Kit had to take dreadful old Inky with her when she did errands. He'd wind his leash around her legs to try to trip her, or he'd roll in a puddle and then shake so that cold, dirty water splattered all over her. The clink of coins in her pockets helped Kit put up with Inky, and with Uncle Hendrik, too, even when he was at his most cantankerous. There was one errand Kit liked to do, even though it didn't earn her any money. Every few days, Uncle Hendrik sent her to the public library to return his books and pick up new ones the librarian set aside for him. The huge public library seemed like a hushed, warm heaven to Kit, filled as it was from floor to ceiling with books. Unfortunately, she never had time to linger there. Uncle Hendrik was always in a hurry to get his books, which seemed odd because they were so dull and boring they always put him to sleep. It was during the afternoons while Uncle Hendrik dozed that Kit thought about Ruthie the most. She missed Ruthie. It would have been such a comfort to talk to her. She'd understand how hateful Inky was and how impossible Uncle Hendrik was. One especially long afternoon, Kit sat watching Uncle Hendrik snore in his chair. One of his dull books had put him to sleep. Inky was contentedly snoring too. Kit reached into her book bag only to find that she'd left the book she wanted to read at home. Instead, she pulled out a pad of paper. It was Sterling's sketch pad, the one he'd used when he made sketches of Kit as Amelia Earhart and Ruthie as a princess. Kit looked at the sketches. Then, without planning to, she began to write. Once upon a time, she began, and then the story seemed to sweep her away. It wasn't the kind of story she usually wrote for her newspaper. This story was not about facts. It didn't report what was really happening. The story was about a completely different world, the kind of world Ruthie liked, a world that was imaginary. In this world, Kit could make anything she wanted to happen. While she was writing, Kit forgot she was stuck in Uncle Hendrik's dreary house. She forgot about her family's money troubles and the fact that the Borders might leave and that her family might be evicted from their house. All of that disappeared while she was in the world of her story. When Uncle Hendrik woke up and blinked his eyes open, Kit felt herself snap back into the real world. It was as if she were waking, too, from a wonderful dream. Kit hurriedly shoved the sketch pad back into her book bag, thinking, Ruthie was right. Make-believe does make your troubles disappear for a while. Kit wished she could tell Ruthie that she understood about make-believe now. Then Kit remembered that she and Ruthie weren't friends anymore. They weren't even speaking to each other. After that first afternoon, Kit wrote more of her story every day. She began to look forward to her writing time, when the only sounds in the grim old house were Uncle Hendrik's snores, the hollow ticking of the clock on the mantel, and Inky's slobbery snuffles. Soon Kit began to see that writing made all of her day better. She thought about her story when she was outside doing errands, and it distracted her from the cold and her tired feet. She paid close attention to how things looked or smelled or sounded, trying to find just the right words to describe them for her story. When Uncle Hendrik woke up and fussed at her, it didn't bother her anymore. She listened carefully in case she wanted to use something he said in her story. Because Kit had discovered that Ruthie had been right about something else too. There was a wicked ogre in Cincinnati. Uncle Hendrik. That is the end of chapter 11, just one chapter left. So I hope you guys head to chapter 12 and finish this book with me. I've had so much fun reading it with you. Once again, go to kidsreadtokids.com for the lesson plan for this book for some really fun activities. Happy reading!